this video, I'm finally going to be continuing my look through my discussions of the Big Finish main range of monthly adventures. Obviously I've not done one of these videos for about a month, just over a month actually. But I have been listening to Big Finish still. I've been, going to be interspersing the main range stuff with, like the 11th Doctor Chronicles that I'm listening to. I've also listened to the 10th Doctor Adventures, the first volume of that, which I still haven't got round to talking about. I probably need to re-listen to them, to be honest. But I'm continuing the Big Finish main range reviews. As I'd said in previous videos, they're going to be slightly different. So rather than every single story will get its own video, I'm going to group them like I'm doing with these stories here. So of course you've seen the thumbnail and the title of the video. So in this video we're going to be talking about the Apocalypse element, the Fires of Vulcan, the Shadow of the Scourge, the Holy Terror, and the Mutant Phase, which releases 11 to 15. It felt like the right sort of amount to group together, and also the next release is the first 8th Doctor release. You get a run of 4 8th Doctor stories, so that'll be the next video, hopefully sort of next month or so, because I'm still listening to Big Finish. I'm still doing them one a week, and I had also done the short video for the Sirens of Time, which I'm intending on doing that for all of them. I just haven't got round to it, for one reason or another. Also, I think I'm coming down a little bit with a cold at the moment, so hopefully I'm not too sort of sniffly in this video, but if I am, I do apologise. Anyway, let's, enough preamble, let's talk about the stories. I'm just going to go through in order. I hadn't made any notes or anything on these, but so I'm just sort of going off memory, but it's not been too long since I've listened to any of them. They're all, within the past month. So we start off with the Apocalypse element, written by Stephen Cole. This is the second Dalek story in the main range. This is with the 6th Doctor. You've got Maggie Stables as Evelyn, coming back of course, and it's also got Lalla Ward as Romana, who is really good in this, although she doesn't appear until part 2, which is really fun. It's great to hear her with another Doctor who's not Tom Baker. I think Colin is great. He just adapts really well. Has a great rapport with Romana. I think this was also quite good. This story kind of splits into 2 halves. So the first half is with this, like this council of people. They've got this, I don't remember exactly, but they've got like a time thing that the Daleks will probably want, but they can't get. And they've had Romana prisoner for a number of years, but they eventually make their attack, and everyone flees this planet at the end of part 2, because it's been attacked by the Daleks, and so parts 3 and 4 then go to Gallifrey. And in terms of Gallifrey, in terms of the main show, the Gallifrey stories, oftentimes I can take them or leave them, I think stuff like the way Gallifreyans are portrayed in stuff like the War Games is really fun. I don't mind the Deadly Assassin, but especially into the 80s, stuff like Arc of Infinity and the Time Lord stuff in the 5 Doctors doesn't really interest me at all. It doesn't, and like Trial of a Time Lord, they aren't really stories that engage me, let's say. But this story definitely did. I thought you had some fun Gallifreyan characters. It's great to have Evelyn on Gallifrey. What was really fun as well, I didn't realise this going in, but it sort of tries to address the continuity, not necessarily continuity error, but the slightly weird fact of in the movie, the Eye of Harmony requiring a human eye to open it, which of course at the time of the movie was because they wanted to make the Doctor half human, but then the majority of people didn't like that aspect of it, and so Evelyn kind of becomes the reason why you need a human eye as a little sort of retcon continuity fix, which I'm not sure was entirely necessary, but it was fun. The Daleks were fun as always. One thing I do really like about the Dalek stories in the main range so far, this was true of this story, it was true of the Genocide Machine, and it's true as well of the story we're going to talk about a little bit later in this video, is that it's not just Nick Briggs doing the voices, it is mostly Nick Briggs, but you've also got Alistair Locke, I believe his name. Yeah, Alistair Locke as the Daleks. Alistair Locke and Nicholas Briggs are both doing the voices, so you get slight variations, which is great. And I think it's something that the show itself should do more of, you know what I mean? The main show with the Daleks, because Nicholas Briggs has now been doing it for however many years. It'll be 19 years this year if he's in it. And he's great at the Daleks, and he has a great range of different voices and different intonations and different pitches. But I do think that there's just something about the way different people speak that it would be good to have a bit of variation with the Daleks that you don't get with it just being Nicholas Briggs all the time. So I like that about the Dalek stories here. But yeah, the apocalypse element was fun. I preferred it to the Genocide Machine in terms of Dalek stories. But not my favourite 6th Doctor and Evelyn story so far. But it was decent, and it's nice to hear Lalla Ward back as Romana. She was really good in this. Then we have The Fires of Vulcan. It's written by Steve Lyons, which is a 7th Doctor and Mel story, so you get Bonnie Langford back. It's also another pure historical. This one is set in Pompeii. It's basically the Fires of Pompeii, just without the aliens. Technically it could be happening at the same time as the Fires of Pompeii, which is a little difficult to believe, but not impossible to believe if you want to. But I really, really enjoyed this. I don't know what it is about the Big Finish pure historicals, but both this story and the Marian Conspiracy have been real highlights for me. I think I like pure historicals anyway. I've not seen too many from the 1960s, you know, but I do really like stories. I think the Romans is a fantastic story. The Crusade is really fun. I would absolutely love to see Marco Polo. I don't know if there's too many others that I've seen. I don't think there are really, but the ones I have seen I've enjoyed, and the ones on audio I've also really liked. I think it's fun. I think as well, because a complaint I've had with some of these stories like Spectre of Lanyon Moore and Winter for the Adept, I seem to recall thinking that I really enjoyed them up until sort of the last part where the villain is revealed and it gets kind of a generic villain voice changer, voice effect, and I haven't been impressed by that in those stories. Whereas if it's with a pure historical, it's just people, so it doesn't. You don't have that problem. I think also it's just fun. I can imagine other like historical audio dramas, and it feels like that. And it's just nice to get, Doctors who are after the first Doctor getting pure historicals, because you just don't get that. Obviously, other than the Highlanders, of course, but you don't get pure historicals beyond the 60s, certainly. So it's really, really fun to get that with these 80s Doctors, these late 80s Doctors. I did also think Mel was great in this. There were some really fun supporting characters. The sort of surrogate companion role, Agley, who's voiced by Gemma Bissix. She was a really fun side character, and it was fun. It was quite fun as well to go to a location that has been in the main show, a location and a time period, but it's a different story. You get to see it through a different writer's perspective, and it's a different sequence of events. It isn't I know I said it's like the Fires of Pompeii without the aliens, but it's not really. It's a very different story. But it was just really fun. I think of these 5 stories, this one was the standout for me. They were all good, but this one, I just really love the pure historicals. I hope I encounter some more of them, because both of them that I've listened to so far have been real highlights for me of the range. Next we go into 2 stories that are known as side steps, because they're sort of intended to be, I think it's from a time when obviously the show had ended in 1989, and there were like different continuations of it in different mediums, and I think the idea was that they were all their own sort of versions of where the show could go, and they all coexisted, rather than trying to be one coherent narrative and one consistent timeline for the Doctor, you know what I mean? So The Shadow of the Scourge is a Virgin New Adventure, essentially. On the cover, the 7th Doctor is in his Virgin New Adventures costume, and so is Ace. She's in her Virgin New Adventures costume, and it also introduces the character of Bernice Summerfield, who is notable for being a Virgin New Adventures original character, and I think after, I might be wrong in this, so correct me if I'm wrong, but after the Virgin stopped publishing novels because BBC Books took the licence back for the past Doctor adventures, they continued with a range of Bernice Summerfield books and audios and stuff. She's a character who's been in a lot of stuff because she is a original to the Virgin New Adventures, so she's got her own sort of licensing and copyright. This was my first exposure to Benny. She's voiced by Lisa Barlman in this, which I believe voices her going forward in everything else. And she was a really fun character. You don't get an introduction in this, because they're from the Virgin New Adventures books, so that stuff has happened and they're in this story, and it does, in a way, it does kind of feel like a Virgin New Adventures novel. Not that I've read any of them, I will say, but what they're sort of famous for, or infamous I should say, is the sort of violence and the grittiness and the, I hesitate to say maturity, because sometimes it sounds quite immature, but they're quite adult. This story is not really violent or adult, but you get inklings of sort of body horror, and people do die very explicitly, I think, if I recall. So it has that feel to it. I get the sense of it anyway. And also, it's weird. There's weird stuff in this story, which again, I haven't read any of those books, but it feels in keeping with those. It's written by Paul Cornell, so I saw his name was on it, and I think his TV stuff, his TV stories, Father's Day, and Human Nature and the Family of Blood, which of course are an adaptation of the Virginia Avengers novel of the same name, Human Nature. I think those stories are both fantastic. I don't know if he's written anything else for the TV series, has he? I don't believe he has, so I had high hopes for this, and it wasn't quite as good as I might have hoped, but it was still pretty decent. I think possibly my least favourite of these 5, but it was still a decent story, and there was a really effective, I think the part 3 cliffhanger is kind of it's not a really shocking, dramatic moment. It's not like someone's going to get killed immediately, or you know, it's not like a load of Daleks shout and exterminate, but it's just a line of dialogue from the Doctor that there's these sound effects on his voice in the moment, because he's in this sort of a certain location. He's in a sort of astral almost location, and so he sounds sort of, there's all these effects on his voice, and then there's this one line from him where the effects just go, and it's really, really powerful. So yeah, Shadow of the Scourge was decent. Probably my least favourite of these 5, but not bad by any means. Then another sidestep, which is The Holy Terror, written by Robert Sherman, who of course wrote Dalek. Robert Sherman is very well known and very well respected for his Big Finish stuff. I'm thinking specifically stories like The Chimes of Midnight, everyone bangs on about, Jubilee, everyone bangs on about, and even this story I heard good things about. This follows on from comics, I think. So you've got Frobisher, who is a shape-shifting penguin. He's not a penguin, he's an alien. He's a shape-shifting alien, but he takes the form of a penguin, and he's sort of a New York private eye, right? He's voiced by Robert Jezek, I think his name is. Robert Jezek voices Frobisher. This was fun. It was very funny, but also quite dark, kind of darkly funny, in the way that I get the sense a lot of Robert Sherman's work is some quite explicit deaths in this one as well, but a really fun, interesting hook and mystery. It kind of gave me at points almost Heaven Sent vibes in a very specific way, and if you're familiar with the story, you'll know what I mean by that. I did enjoy it. I did feel, though, that there was an element to it that felt a bit obvious, and that's not to say that I guessed what the mystery was or anything, but it kind of has a little bit of commentary to it that feels a little bit obvious, almost. Not too much, but it talks about like character archetypes in stories and stuff, and I think sometimes that can be a bit of a slippery slope as a writer to write about the way characters are written in stories, you know what I mean? Because there's a fine line between being self-aware and trying to be above cliches, which are cliches for a reason, almost. I'm not sure. So that element of it I was a bit unsure about, but I think it came together pretty well in the end. There are weird characters. They almost felt, some of the characters felt kind of, I want to say sort of Monty Python, League of Gentlemen-esque. I'm not sure how accurate that is really, but they kind of, the way they're very, they have very weird beliefs and very weird sort of customs, and they're just like, well, this is just how it is, and kind of characters who are going to be tortured, and then they get the opportunity to be freed, and they're like, no, I'm going to stay here. I want to stay here and get tortured in this cell, not in like a masochistic way, just in like a, that's just what happens. So it was quite funny in that sense. It was decent. I enjoyed Frobisher as a character. Again, like Beneath Summerfield, it was my first encounter with Frobisher, but he was fun. I enjoyed him. I prefer Evelyn as a Sixth Doctor companion on audio, but Frobisher was fun. And then the final story that we're going to talk about in this video is the mutant phase. This is written by Nicholas Briggs, and you can tell because there's lots of heavy Dalek lore talking about, you kind of have to be familiar with, at the very least, Dalek invasion of Earth, but probably also stories like the Daleks, the original Dalek story, Evil of the Daleks, maybe, probably the sort of Dalek stories around the time of the show. I mean, not too much, but certainly Dalek invasion of Earth. And he also does that derynation thing where he just rips off a name. Like one of the characters in this is called Ganatus, which is a name of one of the characters from the Daleks, the original Dalek story. This was fun. This was decent. It's another Fifth Doctor and Nyssa story. And again, I enjoy Nyssa, but I think in terms of the Fifth Doctor stories on audio, of the three so far, I think the Fifth Doctor stuff has been my least favourite. The Sixth Doctor stuff, stories have been generally my favourite stuff, and then the Seventh Doctor, and then the Fifth Doctor. I just don't really connect with his companions, and I don't think any of his stories have been massively stand out. I did really enjoy Winter for the Adept, but again, Nyssa was a bit, I find her as a character quite bland. I much preferred Turlo, actually. I liked him in Phantasmagoria, but this was decent. I remember getting this on a CD with Doctor Adventures magazine when I was a child, many years ago, and I never listened to it, but I'm glad I didn't, because I wouldn't have understood what the hell was going on. I think I would have been quite bored, but this was interesting, if a little confusing. I didn't quite know what was going on. I just listened to this quite recently, and I was quite, to be honest, I was quite tired when I listened to this, so perhaps I missed things a little bit. Like I was initially drifting off a little bit in part 4. I kind of lost where I was, but I went back and listened to it again, and it still didn't really, I knew what was going on, but it didn't fully make sense to me. I think definitely the weakest of the 3 Dalek stories so far. Not the weakest of the Fifth Doctor stuff. I think I preferred this to Land of the Dead. But it was decent. But it was just decent. It was okay. I enjoyed it well enough. But not a massive standout. I didn't expect it to be though, you know what I mean? So, yeah, those are the 5 stories that I wanted to talk about in this video. yeah, have you listened to these stories? Let me know what you think of them, which is your favourites, stuff like that. And yeah, thank you very much thank you for watching, thank you for listening. Please do like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already and you like what I do here on this channel. And yes, I will see you. The next one of these will be discussing the first run of 8th Doctor stories with Storm Warning, the Sword of Orion, the Stones of Venice, and Minuet in Hell. But I will see you all in the next video. Thank you.